well, let's get started then. I will call the meeting to order of the January 24th, 2022 Planning and Development Committee, and we do have a quorum. And so, Johanna, would you take the roll?
Councilmember Kelly?
Here, sorry.
Councilmember Wynn?
Here.
Councilmember Newsma?
Here.
Councilmember Burns? Councilmember Sufferton?
Here.
Councilmember Ravel?
Here.
Councilmember Reed?
Here.
All right. So we have a quorum and a roll call, and may I have a motion to suspend the rules to allow us to meet virtually?
I move that we suspend the rules to meet virtually as per the governor's orders.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Okay. And I guess we need a roll call for that.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton?
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
All right. So we have suspended the rules. And may I have a motion to approve the minutes of our regular Planning and Development Committee meeting of December 13th, 2021?
I
The minutes?
Thank you.
second.
Johanna?
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton?
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed? Councilmember Reed?
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is public comment. And do we have members of the public who wish to offer comments?
You have a few signups for public comment. First is Bonnie Wilson, and then Sue Carlson.
Okay. Good evening, Bonnie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bonnie Wilson. I live in the First Ward, and I'm on the Joining Forces Affordable Housing Committee, and that's who I'm speaking for. I've also been a real estate agent in Evanston for over 35 years. I first want to make a comment on P1. There is no reason to hire Dan Lauber as a consultant to the Planning and Development Committee. Daniel spoke to the Zoning Committee in July and has already made his statement that he does not want to abolish the 3 unrelated rule, and he did not charge the city $6,000. This means Mr. Lauber has his own opinion. If you want to hire a consultant, why would you hire anyone that already has a biased opinion on this ordinance? Second, the city did not put out an RFP to see if there was anyone else that would like to be a zoning consultant for Evanston. I would also like to comment on P2. The city does not need another housing subcommittee. Right now, our focus should be on the 3 unrelated ordinance and the statement of family. We do not need a subcommittee to discuss this issue. Actually, Sarah Flax and her staff has done an excellent job of the best way to no longer use the word family in the ordinance. They suggested to change the 3 unrelated ordinance to dwelling units. They suggested the best way is using the property maintenance code, which is calculated using a formula that takes into account the number and square footage of bedrooms in the square footage of general living space. Right now, there is a low inventory of housing in Evanston, and any flexibilities residents can have in their living arrangements will help them on a very individual level. The 3 unrelated and family has been on the council agenda for over 10 years. Let's focus on this ordinance now and not include other issues. We need more housing in Evanston right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then is Sue Carlson next? I guess. Go
I
ahead.
I want to second exactly what Bonnie said, so I won't add any additional time, but I completely agree with what she just pronounced.
Thank you. Are there
And
any?
then, yes, there's more. Next is Wynn Graham and Sue Lobach.
Okay. Wynn?
Yes, my name is Wynn Graham, and I live in Ward 6, and I've lived in Evanston 34 years. I'm a member of the Joining Forces for Affordable Housing Committee and with Lake Street Church's Peace and Justice Committee. I support Bonnie Wilson's comments and am against the hiring of Mr. Louder. Furthermore, with a comprehensive plan process starting and a zoning review underway, there's no need for this contract. I applaud the city planning professionals who researched the term family and advised using occupancy and square footage as a measure for safety in housing regulations, as Bonnie explained. The use of family is antiquated in planning today, and we should remove the term as it diminishes the diversity in today's living arrangements. I look forward to a future when we remove the 3 unrelated rule and Connections for the Homeless can find housing for more than 3 unrelated people, and also others like older adults can form households with friends to save money and engage in social community. Thank you.
Thank you. Johanna, more?
And then Sue Lobach had signed up, and I think she was just trying to join the meeting too.
Okay.
She's here yet. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Is there anybody after Sue?
There was nobody else after Sue.
Okay. Well, let's move on then to our agenda. And first of all, for P1, I'm going to just announce that that item has been removed from the agenda and it's going to be discussed by the Planning and Development Subcommittee, which is the topic of P2, our next item for discussion. And so I believe for us to be able to discuss it, I need someone to move discussion of item P2. Would someone, wait a minute. Sue, I see you're there. Would you like to make your public comment?
Sure, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say I had a chance to talk with both Mr. Lauber and Sarah Flax today. And I understand that there are, this is just such a complicated issue with what the state law is around licensing and just the whole issue of the 3 unrelated and definition of family. Given that we have group homes in Evanston that are operating well, that there really aren't a lot of issues with them right now, that we're going to be moving into a comprehensive planning process that will include some real sort of work on our zoning code in terms of equity, that should be leading into a full review of the zoning code. We don't feel that this is necessarily something that the city should be spending a ton of time on right now to look at this one piece and try and figure out the whole group home thing when we also have boarding houses that need to be looked at and shelters that need to be looked at and so on and so on. We understand fully how complex this is, but given the other work that's going to be happening, we would really like to see this not be the focus, and we would like to do whatever we can as quickly as we can to get rid of a lot of the restrictions that are making it difficult to do affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so back to P2, if someone would move discussion of item P2 for us.
I'll move discussion of P2 update on ordinance 83021, a text amendment related to occupancy of dwelling units and definition of family and related housing issues referred by the Planning and Development Committee to the Planning and Development Housing Subcommittee.
I will second that.
Thank you. And then I think we just move into the discussion. As the memo indicated back in August of last year, we started our discussion of the issues that were sent to us by the Plan Commission. And we agreed that there were a number of related rental and housing issues, and so we created a subcommittee to meet and work on those issues. And so, and we said we'd come back in 6 months to see where we were with those, and so that's where we are tonight. So, Councilmember Kelly, would you like to, as the chair of the subcommittee, would you like to tell us what's been happening?
Sure, absolutely. And I think, you know, we're really still we're not at the end of this yet. And we started out, several of the members suggested we first look at licensing versus registration. So the issue of the 3-person definition of family is next on our agenda. Right now, we're trying to wrap up our discussion about whether or not we think licensing would be more effective in terms of ensuring better protections for tenants as well as affordability. So we're finishing up that at our next session. I'm sorry, I was out. I had a very difficult 6 months, family issues. So we did get delayed a little bit. So I apologize for that. We will be picking up in the next week or two. And so I'm going to ask that we have a couple-month extension on this. Our next item on the agenda, we will be delving into the 3-person and the definition of family. So I ask that this be deferred to if we could get an update again in 2 months from our housing subcommittee.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions or comments or suggestions?
I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I, as a member of the subcommittee, I agree as well. We've, you know, the issue of licensing is, we've had a robust discussion thus far, and I think we're close to wrapping up that discussion and can bring that back to planning and development very soon, and then continue our work on some of the other issues. So it's been a good place to have some in-depth discussion of those issues. Councilmember Burns, do you have a comment?
No, I was just starting my video, and I concur with what you said and Councilmember Kelly has said as well.
All right. So if
Shall I move that this be deferred to the subcommittee, our housing subcommittee?
I think at this point we need you need a tabling action to a date certain, and I believe that is what the direction we had from the law department.
Okay.
Okay, and who brought this to put this on this agenda?
So when it came in August from the Plan Commission, when it was referred, the referral included a return to City Council at the second meeting in January.
Okay, it wasn't 6 months?
Right,
We checked the tape, and it said the second meeting in January. I think was what it was. So we came back. We didn't want the issue to die, so to speak.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so can we table it to a date uncertain, indefinite, or how do we do this?
Oh no, it has to be a date certain, but so we could.
Well, it actually doesn't have to be a date certain because the council rules don't apply to committees as we have gone through. So she could just table it to whatever. You could just table it indefinitely, or.
I thought we amended our rules to say that the committees all have
council
rules.
No, I suggested that, but no one took it up. So the committee rules, the council rules don't apply to committees.
Well, nonetheless, I'm looking at our March calendar. Do you think we'd be ready to come back to P&D with?
No, because that would leave us so we'll have a meeting in February and one in March. So I would not want to commit us to a March date. I would prefer to say indefinite, although I think it'll be soon, but I mean, right now, instead of hashing out, trying to calculate the dates, I'd rather just say, just table it.
Well, if we're allowed to just do that.
I have been told in the past that if something stays tabled too long, the issue dies.
We'll find out what that too long is, but I would say table it for now, and then we'll have to, as our subcommittee meets next month, we can try and figure out what we think is a realistic date that we can bring this back.
Maybe our interim city manager has a.
Steve, I'm pulling up my Roberts rules. I believe the last time I looked this up was when I was on Corporation Council. I believe it's 120 days, and after 120 days, it falls off the table.
Okay, so then we'll table it for, if that is in fact, so we would table it for 120 days?
Well, no, just naturally, if that's the rule, it would naturally fall off in 100. So we can check that in the future if that's correct, which maybe sounds right. Then we can just address it before then.
Well,
I'll have to double check that, but I would put it for a date certain before the 120 days. That's just going off my memory, but let me just double check.
right.
Councilmember Wynn.
Yes, my memory is the same as interim city manager Kelly Gandersky, that it does fall off the agenda if we, after a certain amount of time. 120 days sounds correct. So I would recommend that we look at the calendar and figure out what's 100 days from now, and so to make sure that we don't have to then reintroduce it, and so that it just stays, it stays on the agenda.
Okay. All right, so this is, so February, March, April is 3 months. So that's 90. So why don't we say end of April?
So your second meeting is April 25th in April.
And Michelle, did you have a comment on this discussion?
Yes. Good evening, members of the committee and Chair Rebel. So just checking in on this, that you can table it to an indefinite date, but we did just want, the law department did want you to know that if you do table that agenda item, then it will die at the end of this meeting. So just so that we're clear on that.
Could you say that again, Michelle? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sure. Sorry. So if you do table that agenda item, we did just want you to know that it would die at the end of this meeting. Mm-hmm. So, but you can table it. It can be for an indefinite date, but just letting you know that it would
Right, we'll bring
die
it
at
back.
the end of this meeting. Exactly. You'd have to do
Right,
that.
we just bring it back. So I think that makes most sense, rather than, and we'll discuss it, we'll put it on the agenda to determine a date by which we think we can reasonably discuss and inform ourselves to make an appropriate recommendation at our next meeting. So I think that sounds like the most reasonable way to move forward.
Okay, so we're not making a motion, we're just,
It's tabled.
I think you're making a motion to table it.
So I'd like to motion that this item be tabled.
Second.
all right, so we have a motion to table the item.
Okay, I'm sorry. That means it dies, right?
It'll just have
We'll
to
bring
be,
it back. We're going to bring it back. I mean, it's,
yeah, it'll have to be motioned off of the table at some meeting at some point.
I think actually it means that if it dies, that it's removed from the agenda. Is that correct, Council?
Yes, that's what Ms. Ozarigbo was saying, that it would essentially die at this meeting. It would be on the table in the nether, if you will. And at some point we'd have to remove it from the table in a meeting.
right. And we'll bring it back. So it's,
I believe that this has come up before when items have died off the table, and because this is something that affects Title VI, it has to go back to start over with the Land Use Commission / what used to be the Plan Commission.
I'm sorry. This came up once before, and I think this came up at P&D, and I had Robert's Rule Section 34, time limits on taking a question from the table. A question that has been laid on the table remains there and can be taken from the table during the same session, or if the next regular business session will be held before a quarterly time interval has elapsed, also at the next session after it was laid on the table. If not taken from the table within these time limits, the question dies, although it can be reintroduced later as a new question. So my analysis then was if it's on the table for more than a quarter, the question is dead. It would have to come back on the agenda either through a suspension of the rules vote first, or to remove it from the table, then a vote to remove from the table, or a referral as a new agenda item. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think that makes sense.
I'm happy to share that with the committee as well. It was a difficult rule to look up in Robert's rules, and I remember being surprised by that. So I'll send this on
which is
Thank you.
sometimes why council rules are easier than Robert's rules.
That is correct.
And maybe should be followed by committees.
All right, so where are we?
So I think we're still about, I think I'm still motioning, if I understand, to table it, and then we would reintroduce it. I don't think anybody's, I think it's understood that this will be reintroduced.
Without having to go to the land commission first.
Correct.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit confused. I don't think we want to go to the, I don't think we want to have it reintroduced. We want to have it just move from the table back to the agenda because.
Right.
Right. So the procedure that does that, I think, would be the smoothest procedure rather than having to reintroduce it and having it have to make its way through all of the various twists and turns.
Yeah, as long as that's done within the quarter, within, I guess, 90 days, then
Right.
we can do it without that, yeah.
Right. That's my understanding too, Councilmember Reed. So we do need to act on this within this quarter.
Right, and that's where I'm saying we're going to be meeting about licensing and registration, and I can't guarantee that in 2 meetings we're going to wrap this up.
No, and
I would prefer. Is there another?
I understand that, Councilmember Kelly. I just wanted to be clear that we shouldn't let it fall off the table and die because then
Okay, cool.
that will make it more complicated.
And then we can postpone.
So basically, we're aiming to come back in April, which would be in a quarter.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think sounds doable for this one piece, the licensing piece. We won't have solved all the problems we won't have done all the issues on the agenda.
Correct. We can come back with the licensing. I'm just not sure about the 3-person.
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, I agree. So,
Okay. If that, as long as we will have sufficient time, because it's such an important topic that's been not, that definitely we need to bring some resolution to. I don't want to be forced into a rush decision.
right. No, I agree. But my understanding is we can come back, if we table it, either table it and it comes back before the quarter is over, we will come back with at least the licensing piece, and we don't have to solve all the items on the subcommittee agenda.
By then, okay.
Okay.
So we'll make that motion.
Councilmember Kelly, are you making your tabling motion?
So the motion would be, we're tabling it until April, until the date certain, correct?
Sure. How about the second meeting in April?
Until the second P&D meeting in April.
Sorry, I think that puts you just at the 90-day. I think that's almost
Yeah,
at the
I think
90-day
that
mark.
might be
So-
right, either there or just outside of it.
Right, so
But
I would
yeah,
suggest the second meeting, which is the 11th.
I thought that's what I said, the second meeting.
The first.
That's
The
the
first
first. The first meeting of April is the 11th, which sort of sounds like it's the second meeting, but it's the second week of April.
Right. The first P&D meeting of April.
So that would be April 11th. So if we can continue to the April 11th, that would make it easy for everybody.
Okay, good enough.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to motion to table this until the first meeting of April of P&D.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second,
Okay. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton, Councilmember Ravel,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
aye. Chair, I'm sorry. Point of information, Chair, apologies.
Yes. Go ahead.
For the first item, we didn't vote to move it anywhere.
No, I just announced that it was taken from the agenda and gone to the subcommittee. I was informed by Corporation Counsel that was an okay thing to do.
Oh, okay. Okay. We can discuss that later. I don't know if that is, but sure.
So, okay, is there any more business to come before the Planning and Development Committee meeting? So what time is council scheduled to be in?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay. So then if we could have a motion to adjourn, and then the council will be in 6 o'clock.
I
So
move
moved.
adjournment.
Second.
Second.
And I think we're done. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, thank you, everybody.